Good morning. So today we are tying sort of an ultra shrimp, but it's going to be upside down with a weight. So let's just, first of all, I should tell you what sort of hook I'm using. I'm using a size 4. That one. So the thread that I'm tying with today is a, what is it? It is a 210 sort of pastel-y pink coloured thread. It's quite a thick one, so when we're doing our wraps we'll be a bit light. Don't put too much on because this builds the body up really quickly. So we're tying sort of a little bit up the hook shank. You'll see why in a minute. Not too far up. Forgive the sniffles. Got a bit of a cold this morning. Tie back to about there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to tie one of these onto it. It's a 4mm hourglass bead. We're going to tie that onto the top of the shank as it is currently positioned, so that its position will pull the hook so that the hook is actually facing upwards. So we give it 3 ties one way, and we switch direction, and we give it 3 ties the other way, and then 3 ties the other way. We'll pull it into position and straighten it up. And once we're reasonably confident with our positioning, which direction is my thread going? We lash it on. So you use your figure 8s and we just lash it on. Same way that you tie on a clouser eye, because effectively this is a clouser eye. Make sure that it's not too wobbly. Give a few more fairly tight lashes. Change direction again. You don't want it to be moving, so I think that's pretty good. I might just quickly change my direction just so that it's going counterclockwise, because for some reason I like counterclockwise. So the camera angle, that doesn't look too straight, but I can assure you that is actually straight. There we go. So now what we're going to do is we're going to just move back all the way up the shank. Whoa, that's not what you want. And we're going to tie on, I'm not sure what they're called on a shrimp, anatomically speaking. They're like the mouth bits, I don't know. Let's call them the mouth bits. So what we're going to use here is crystal flash, pearl crystal flash. So because we want to build up a bit, I've just got 2 strands and I'm going to loop them. Yeah, I am so sorry, I'm stiffly this morning. So I loop them and then I will loop them again, and then I'll probably loop them again just to get quite a number without wasting too much crystal flash. So I'm probably going to do one more loop, I think. Get them roughly even. Yeah, that's probably enough to see that. So because we're going to be just tie them on. And I think I will. No, I might double those over again. Get a few of them. See how it's double over. That's better. Get them positioned where we want them on the hook. And that's about right. Get them on. So now we're going to tie on the eyes. Shrimp eyes. I bought these pre-made, but you can make them with 80-pound mono. You just burn the ends and paint the burnt bits. Might do a video on that later. So we want to position these on the side of the hook, roughly. So let's get this tied on. I'll do your side first. And so they need to be, for this to work, they really need to be on the side. So we tie them up to about there. We'll do this side now. Try to get the position about level. Yeah, where'd that go? So it really needs to be on the side of the hook shank. Because that's going to be the basis for how we tie on our legs. Just sort of a bit of a platform for where they sit. Not sure that looks about right, yep. So I think that's pretty good. Sort of want to try to pull the eyes out a little bit now so that we're not fighting them later. Just bend them back. See how they're sitting now? Alright, so let's do the legs. So I'm using, for this today, I might just use brown coloured Sili legs. No, I might go a different colour actually. I'm going to go to this orange tip Sili legs, but I'm not going to use the orange tip. I'm going to use the centre part of it. So we'll just pull a couple off. Perfect. And then we will cut the orange bits off. Not necessarily all of it, but you know, we don't want to have this particular fly too orange. So what we're left then with is that. Now I might trim these down even a little bit more, but let's get them on the fly first. So our first wrap, we want the legs, I think about there. We will trim the excess off the parts of it tying onto the body, because we don't want to pack it out too much. You'll see why in a minute. Whatever orange is left, what we're going to do is put that at the end of the leg. So this is our first set of legs. We're actually going to do 2 sets of legs. Just trim the excess here. You want to move down a couple of millimeters. Actually no, before we put on the second set of legs, let's tie on the antenna so we're not interfering. So for the antenna, we're going to use black crystal flash. And this one's actually nice and easy to tie on. So I just tie on the whole strand. We'll trim it down later. But I just loop that around the hook. If it's not, yeah, it's all caught up in my vise. I'll just tie it on there. Just got a couple of tie-ons. Sort of position it how you want it to be positioned. So ideally you sort of run it in front of the eyes like that. Just run it inverse direction to what it's doing, to sort of hold into position better as I tie the other bits in. Try not to interfere with the legs that you've already tied in too much. I probably should have done this before I did the legs, but I forgot. So you will just have to bear with me. Leave those nice and long, we'll trim them down later. Alright, so our second set of legs. Again, we probably want to go a couple of mil back from our first ones. Try to keep them about the same length, same sort of lateral position for each leg. These are a bit fiddly. Probably a good position. I'm trying to move it forward even a little bit. Now some people get fancy and they tie knots in the legs to make them bend. I'm not going to do that today because I'm feeling lazy. I have done it and it looks really good, but just not today. Is that where we want it to be? Now hopefully this is working out because this camera's on manual focus and this is actually the first time I'm doing this, so hopefully everything's in focus. I can't really see from this viewfinder. Alright. Get a couple more good wraps. There's our legs. Looking pretty good, I reckon. Alright, so what are we doing next? I think we might do the hackle. So, what we've got here is the standard neck feather neck hackle. I'm using brown because I like brown, especially on shrimps. Brown or tan sort of colour for this part is really ideally what you want. So I'm not going to bother to trim it or anything. This is the back part of a shrimp, and they are always messy. And the messier here, the better, I reckon. So try to keep our legs out of the way as we're tying our hackle. Oh, I'm caught up in a leg. There we go. Try to twist so that you get your nice pattern. Keep it sort of even. Even twists. Try to preserve as much of the hackle as you can. And we're going to tie this on. This one nice and tight. Flip her over. Let's cut that off. And then, using a hackle brush, or if you don't have a hackle brush like me, your fingers, just try to get as much of this feathers bent down as you can, feather strands bent down as you can, so that you're not wasting them. So, now we are going to tie on some mono, which I don't have handy. Oh, here we go. So this is just 4x leader, I believe. Maybe it's thicker, I can't remember. So we're just going to tie that on. We might tie that this way. Might tie it onto the back here, just so that we're not padding out too much. Really tie this in. Mono is super slippery, and if you're not careful, it'll just come out. And now we're going to tie this on. So this is going to be its shell. So what this is 3mm shrink tubing, which I've made a cut diagonally down there. Then I've made another cut there, and because we're tying this upside down on the hook, I've made another cut the opposite side, just up the top, so that it's going to part through the hook shank. Oh no, we don't want to tie this on yet. We want to tie on our top material, this one. Oh, goodness me. I'm not thinking clearly this morning. So this is just a flash blend fibre. I can't remember what it's called. That one. Steve Farmer's flash blend. Any fibre I think will do for this particular one. So you sort of want to get a decent amount. Not too much though. I sort of like to. Don't be afraid to cut it too long unless you don't want to waste the fibre. Looks pretty good. You always trim it down later. So this we're going to sort of pre-do a little bit, so it's a bit tapered, if that makes sense. Just like that. Now, in an ultra shrimp, this wouldn't matter, but because we're tying this around the hook shank, we need to split it a little bit so it forms a bit of a mustache. So you sort of part it halfway down the middle, just so that we can get it nice and evenly down the hook shank, just like that. Try to get it above all your other bits and try to form it again around the hook shank. Like so. Spend a little bit of time just shaping it, because the next step is actually the shell now. You don't want it to be too... Probably could have gone a bit more fibre, but yeah, this will do. Spend a bit of time working it, just to give it the shape it sort of needs. But otherwise that's pretty good. So then we're gonna put it in our shell. As you can see, it's a little bit hard to work with. You can buy like pre-made shrimp shells, but they're like expensive and shrink tubing's cheap. So make sure you're not catching anything. Sitting pretty well. So let's tie her on. Now heat shrink's actually really good for this. I think I saw it on a ultra shrink pattern, or maybe a Martin shrimp pattern or something, where it actually, if tied as I'm about to do, as I will show you, works really well. So we're done with our main fibre now, so let's give it a whip finish or two. The whip finish is the thing that I always fuck up. But today, it seems to be going pretty good. So, there you go. Probably my best whip finish ever. Now what we will do though, is we will just add a dab of head cement, just to make sure. Oh no. There we go. Just to make sure that the whip finish stays. Now I don't have my little knifey thing, so I'm just using a cable tie. Alright, so we're almost done. So what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap the mono that we tied on earlier to form the divots in the shell. And we're going to take extra care to feed it through our hackle. Keep it reasonably tight, because you do want to give it that texture that a shrimp or prawn or yabby or whatever's, non-crab like crustaceans shell has. Try to keep it even. Don't go up about as far as your legs. I want to pull those down and behind, but not the legs, just the hackle. There we go. No, we don't. There we go. This is the hard bit, is we're not going to actually tie the mono on. What we're going to do is we're just going to cheat and resin it on. So I get a set of surgical clamps and then just clamp that onto the mono and let it fall, and that just gives it enough tension to do what we're about to do next, which is the resin. So clean it up a little bit first, get rid of any stray hackle that might have made its way to the top during my very poor rushed attempt at tying. And you just give it a nice even layer, maybe a little bit of the tie was. I might just let it flow a bit. This is the thin one, so I'll just get our top there, give it a blast with the light. That's just our first coat. We're going to give it one more where we're just going to spread it over the rest of the shell. And what that will do is ensure that the relatively weak material of the shrink wrap is just reinforced slightly by the resin. So for this, again, if I had my little spiky tool whose name I can't remember, that would be great, but I'm just going to use a nail instead, just to spread the resin over the rest of the shell, just to make sure there's a little bit of extra reinforcement for that. And that's probably pretty good. Give it another blast with the UV pen. Now, where's my scissors? Haha! We cut off our mono. So we're now free of that. Now, what we're going to do is just cut these little, I should really Google what this is called. And just sort of trim it down. Sort of don't do too even. Give it a bit of a staggered cut. You want to have that natural sort of appearance. I might give that another blast with the UV pen, that doesn't feel like it's set properly. Trim these bits down too. And now, I'll trim our antenna. I like to go really long with the antenna because you know what, shrimp have long antennae. And that is my sort of kinda an ultra shrimp but not pattern. Yeah, I could have used a bit more fibre up the top, but I didn't. That's okay, I might just cut that off. There you have it. Thank you very much.